Hello, and welcome to the Lions Roar podcast, the official podcast of Calvary Baptist Academy. We are the place you can come to find out all the news and notes and the going-ons of Calvary Baptist Academy, both its history and presently what's happening. Today we've got a very special guest. We've got someone who has had children and now grandchildren at Calvary Baptist Academy and serves on our school board as its chairman. We're going to get to know him a little bit, as well as talk a little bit about our annual fund and our scholarship fund and even our endowment fund, a little bit about how those funds work, and I give you some information there. So let's get started. Welcome to the Lions Roar podcast, Mr. Bill Penn. Bill Penn is, as I said before, the chairman of our school committee. But before we get into that, Bill, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about how you came to Midland, how you came to be in this area, a part of the church and school ministry at Calvary.
Well, I grew up in Beaverton, and so I've been in the area off and on almost my entire life. And we got associated with Calvary back in the late 70s. My wife and I had a new baby. She was a kindergarten age, and we were attending church up at Hope Baptist. I farmed up there, and we were hearing from a cousin of my wife's who was also a member there at Hope Baptist about how good the school was. And my wife we had been trying to do a little homeschooling with our oldest daughter. And that was, for some of you who might remember, back late 70s, it wasn't necessarily a friendly time for homeschooling. There was a little pressure that would come on. Intermediate school district would ask questions and different ones.
Well, not just homeschooling, even Christian schooling. There was some legislation issues and some trips to Lansing to fight some different things. And for sure, definitely the early days of Christian ed and homeschool.
That's absolutely right. It was all across the board, anything but public schools, and you got a little bit of a challenge going into it. So anyway, we heard good things about Calvary Baptist, and obviously we knew the church and whatnot, being members up at Hope Baptist, and had good reports about the school. So ultimately, we ended up enrolling our oldest daughter in kindergarten at CBA.
What year would that have been roughly?
Oh, let's see. Would have been sometime in the late 70s. I can't remember.
Yeah. I know that who was the pastor of Hope Baptist at that time?
David Marsteller was the pastor there.
I wasn't sure the timing. I know there's a memorial service for Pastor Marsteller. He just passed away here recently, but he was a longtime pastor there at Hope. And his wife, Shirley, was one of our teachers. She taught me English.
Yep.
So I could tell you some stories about English class with Shirley Marsteller. She was strict. And she knew her stuff, and she was one of those teachers you don't forget very easily.
Well, their family played a major role in mine and my wife's Christian growth and really in discipling us to know the Lord better and going through. And I used to take my daughter up at that time. Hope ran a bus from up at the Hope Church to the school every day. So I would take my daughter up to the church to catch the bus and everything, and Pastor Marsteller was out there every morning and would stand in my window and chat with me, a little bit. And what it really came down to is that was all part of the discipleship process he was going through, because I found out later in life that he really wasn't that much of a morning person. He didn't like to get out that early all the time.
Sure.
But he was there every morning, and it really was an important part of mine and my wife's Christian growth. And we're extremely happy that he's gone on and he's with his Savior now. But
Amen.
But we're also gonna miss him.
Yeah.
We managed to. They moved down to Florida, but we still managed to see him about once a year. And it's going to be. There's a hole there. Yeah,
and his wife Shirley was just like I said. She really had made an impression on a lot of young people, and as that English teacher and such. And so that'll be a good time to celebrate his life and ministry and the influence there. So, how many children did you have at CBA over the years, and what did that look like? And then talk about a little bit. You have grandchildren today. How many of those?
We've got we had our two daughters both graduated from CBA, and there was a little bit of a we moved away. I left the farm and went to work for USDA, and then went to law school and did a lot of different things in there, and so we were gone for a while. But then ultimately, the girls came back, and I don't remember exactly what grade it was, but would have been upper elementary.
Sure.
They came back to CBA, and both of them then graduated from CBA. And then currently we have 5 grandchildren that are attending CBA. We were as high as 8, and some of those have
Sure.
The oldest one's 22 now, so have kind of moved on. But
so 10th grade's the oldest now.
The oldest attending right now, we've got a 10th grader, 2 7th graders, and a pair of twins that are in the 4th grade. So
Okay.
I've got kind of the whole gamut. We got the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school.
That's great.
Nobody at HTP, but
Yeah.
but we've got the others covered.
And I know your wife, Paget, she's active in the school a little as well. I know she helps out with our educational support program, and especially in the area, I think, of reading and some of those things. And so she's been around the school quite a bit. But you're a part of our school committee. You're currently the chairman of our school committee. When did you come on the school committee, and what did that kind of look like?
Well, I've always had an interest in education. At one point in my life, I ran for and was elected to a public school board. So I've served in that role in the past. That was downstate, down by Lansing. But we came back, and when here at Calvary, I obviously had this interest in education, and CBA and HGP are a major ministry of Calvary Baptist Church, and as a church member, obviously, I looked at that and I watched that, and with the education interest that I had, I expressed some interest in serving in some way that I could, because I really do believe in giving back to the community that I'm part of, and Calvary Baptist Church and CBA are an important part of my community, if you will. So about I'm guessing 4 or 5 years ago. I just retired this year, and time seems to continue to accelerate, move faster all the time. But I think it was about 5 years ago I came on the committee, and then I think I'm in my 3rd year now as chairman. I ran for and was elected as chairman of the school committee, and have been working closely with you and the committee since then.
Yeah, so for those of you that are watching, our school's a little different in that it's obviously a private Christian school, and it's a ministry of Calvary Baptist Church. So Calvary Baptist Church is the big umbrella that the school is under, and that creates a different scenario. We don't have a school board that functions the same way that maybe at a public institution or a public school would run. The only board that our ministry has is the deacon board. So the deacons have oversight of all of the ministries of the church, and they work to serve the pastors and to assist the pastors in oversight of the ministry there. And so the school committee is a committee that's dedicated to the church, and their function primarily is to offer oversight for what's going on in the school, to offer some accountability financially, to really make sure we're staying on mission, that we're not going rogue with a different mission statement than what we were given underneath that umbrella of the church. It's really an interesting thing, because our church obviously is involved in evangelism, and that is to get the gospel out to as many people as possible. And the preschool has that obviously as part of its mission statement, is that we want to bring boys and girls into the school to provide child care and early education, preparing them to head into elementary school, and to do that in a Christ-centered environment where we have opportunity to reach those boys and girls and then their moms and dads and families for Christ. The church is also there to provide discipleship for those that have come to Christ to grow in that relationship. And the school, the elementary, junior high, and high school becomes really a discipleship arm. We want to see those kids after they come to know Christ to grow in Christ likeness, and to just partner with parents in helping them to do that. So both pieces of the church's ministry show up in the school's ministry. And so we want to make sure we keep that mission focus of why we're here and what we're doing. And then to offer a sounding board for how we can keep improving and doing things better, and just have that team effort within the school committee. As you look at the purpose and ministry of the school committee, how do you see yourself functioning kind of as the chairman of that school committee? How do you see your role with the committee and with myself as head of school, with the whole team of the school staff and ministry there?
Well, really, it's my role. I'm an elected officer of the church, under our Constitution. The chairman of the school committee is elected, and then also as the elected chairman of the school committee, I serve on the deacon board, and really that's a liaison. What I view as a liaison position between the school and the deacon board and the church. I view my responsibility from that standpoint as being one to make sure that I'm keeping the deacon board informed of what's going on in the school and what we're doing and where we might be having a need for some help from the church and whatnot. And then also to report on, from a financial standpoint, what's going on with the school, so that because it does impact the church, and then also to make sure that the deacon board as a whole, the members and the pastors also that are there, can communicate back to those of us on the school committee through me. And I'm not the only one that's on the deacon board. We also have a number of our school committee members who are also elected as deacons. So it's not like I'm the only one there, and you attend and everything, so that we it's really a primary role is to serve that liaison role, to communicate back and forth both ways between the deacon board and the leadership of the church, and to the school and the leadership of the school, what's going on and what we need to do, and if there's any concerns or anything, that we address those. And
you're an ambassador of sorts. You know, you represent the school to the rest of the ministry team there on the deacons, but it's the other way as well. The school committee is there, all the members, also to represent the different stakeholders. You know, we have, of course, church members who are invested in the school because it's a ministry of the church. You have parents who are paying tuition and want to make sure that the school is functioning well and properly and doing what it's supposed to do. You have grandparents who are, caring about. You have alumni and former parents. The kids aren't there any longer, but they still care about the school and want to see it go on and continue. And so you have lots of different entities and that you
devoted church members who care about the ministries of the church.
For sure.
The school is obviously a big one of those. So.
Yeah. And so, you represent all of those, and within the school committee, there are pretty much all of those represented as well. We have parents, we have grandparents on the school committee. We have church members, of course, that are representing different aspects of that team. And so I really appreciate the school committee. I appreciate the faithfulness to, give of their time to come and to fulfill that role. Recently here you said you retired, and we're going through the transition of software for our student information system with Fax, and then with Aplos, our accounting software. And I just want those of you that are watching to know that like anytime you change software, it's not been perfect and smooth. And that Bill's put in a huge amount of time helping with that. And I really, really appreciate that. And when you signed up to be on the school committee and to even be the chairman, I don't think that was on the expectation list. Software management. And
I had a couple of things I really wanted to accomplish with when I came on as chairman. One of them was to kind of upgrade, if you will, the documentation of how it is we operate and what we do. Put a real firm set of bylaws in place and whatnot, and then also to look at additional revenue sources that we might be able to generate to come up, because I'm a strong believer that 70 to 80% of our operating expenses at the school are personnel based. In many times our teachers and staff aren't getting as paid as much as all of us, I think, wish that we could pay them. But when you're dependent upon tuition, we're also sensitive to the fact that it's hard for many of these families to afford the tuition that's coming in there. So we've got to need to identify some other revenue sources other than just the parents that are have their students there through tuition. So that thing, but this software project has kind of taken me by storm, and I'm not working on those other things all that much.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. That's exactly right.
And I'm thankful, we already have data that we, can dig a little deeper and just reporting and such. And I'm thankful that we are in the financial position we're in. God has been good, and he's provided. However, recognizing the reality that tuition is a challenge, and it's expensive for families to send their kids to a private Christian school, and we recognize that it's an investment. And I can tell you all the reasons why I think it's a great investment, and how the Lord's used it in my life, my family's life, and seen it in others' lives. That it's still you have, at the end of the day, make the budget work. And so our goal is to keep that as accessible as possible for as many families as possible. And so over the years, we've done different fundraising things. That dirty word, fundraising, that is not fun to talk about. It's not fun to run a fundraiser in some ways. Sometimes it takes a lot of energies, and the return. Sometimes you wonder, was it worth all of that effort and energy and things? And you've been attending with me on occasion some training with the Herzog Foundation.
Yes,
and talking to what do good schools that are healthy, schools that are doing well around the country, that are in that Christian education space. What are some things that they're doing well that we can replicate? And what are the things that don't work that we maybe can save some time by not trying, and having those conversations with schools all around the country? And it's been a great benefit. And one of the things that was recommended that was a little fearful at first was this idea of an annual fund. And we didn't have an annual fund. We didn't have any place where families could just give to the school to kind of benefit some of the programming and things around the school. We did fundraisers. We sold coupon books for a while, and we've done jogathons over the years. We've just done different things, and all good intentioned.
Wrapping paper, cookie dough,
pizza, and you raise money, and it's good and it's helpful. And we use that money to benefit the school we built. I remember helping put up the big tower there on the playground, and that was all through fundraising. But the last year, we talked about it. You as a chairman of the school committee, and myself as head of school, and said, maybe let's try this thing of the annual fund. And the idea was just to ask our families and ask our constituents, like our teachers, which sounded unusual, but we asked our teachers, we asked the school committee themselves, and all the families and those that were really stakeholders in the school to consider giving to the annual fund. And the theme was all in. And if everybody just gave a little bit, see what God would do. And to date, over the first year of the annual fund, about $80,000 was given into that fund, which far exceeded my expectations.
Mine too.
You may have had a lot more faith than I did. In my head, I've told people here recently, $25,000 was a number that I thought that would be an awesome first year of an annual fund. And so 80,000 is a little bit beyond what I had expected. And so we've been able to do a lot of cool things with the annual fund already. We've purchased air purifiers for all the classrooms in the school. We've purchased new tables and furniture. We've purchased all kinds of a couple Gaga pits and some equipment for the gymnasium, PE classes, and for the recess and such like that. Just some stuff. Lots of musical instruments. There was all kinds of stuff we did there. I know there's the boomsticks, boom whackers, whatever they call them, and even violins and cellos and equipment for the music program. a skeleton. I think his name's Boney Tony, I'm told, or something, but a skeleton for the science lab there, and even storage for the lab, which isn't the most exciting thing, but it was necessary at West Campus when we renovated that classroom, the need for chemical storage and all that kind of stuff. And those aren't cheap. And so we've been able to do quite a number of things like that in around the campus. And so we're going to keep doing more of that, Lord willing. We kind of get some feedback from teachers and such of what are some of the needs we have around the facility. And the idea of the annual fund is not to pay anyone's salary. It's not to pay for anything that's in our normal operating budget. You mentioned before already that the challenge of private education is literally 70 to 80% of every dollar that comes in tuition goes out in personnel costs.
Yep.
And so there's not a lot of extra funds that are going to lots of extra things. And so anything we bring in the annual fund lets us do more things to supplement the basics of curriculum and classroom, just the basic furnishings and such, so we can do more. And that's the idea. And some people can give $5 to the annual fund, and some others can give, $5,000. And so however the Lord leads is how we've chosen to do it. We haven't set a financial number out there that we're trying to reach, just if everyone gives. This year, the theme, last year was all in and trying to encourage everybody to give something. And this year, continuing on that idea, is the theme is stronger together, and how my $5 doesn't go that far, but all of our little bit contributed together helps us to accomplish a lot more. And so we've got some hopes on the horizon to use some of those funds for. We'll see what God does. But it's just exciting when you try something and see God use it and take it farther than you expected.
Well, it's interesting you talk about, we've done the fundraisers, and in my life, I've been involved in a lot of fundraising, not just with the school, but I was active in Rotary at one time, and so we were always fundraising for different things. Even when I was on the public school board, that particular school district had what they called a schools foundation, whose whole purpose was to raise money to do what we're doing with the annual fund. And the one thing about fundraisers, where you're selling cookie dough or selling coupon books or whatever, I think that uniformly there's nobody that really enjoys it. I mean, you're going to do these booklets. You got to go out and you got to convince businesses in the community that they want to have a coupon in the book so that they can give a discount, to people who come in with a coupon. And then you got to get the books all printed up, and you got to get them distributed, and you got to build this sales force and sales system to get them to all of the students to go out and sell, and then the parents get to go out and sell, and the money comes back in, and you got to do prizes for this and prizes for that, and everything that goes on. And it's an administrative nightmare is what it comes down to.
Well, at least it's work. Yeah, it's extra work. Yeah,
it's a lot of extra work that goes into it. We've raised some pretty good money, I think, over the years with that. But I'm not sure any of those fundraisers in one year raised $80,000.
I think 60-some thousand one year was if I remember correctly, and I could be corrected, but I think 65,000 was one of the highs over those years.
One of the things that I've learned over the years about fundraising, and it's true, I think, whether we're selling a book or we're asking people to contribute to the annual fund, is that one way you can be sure that you're not going to raise any money from it is if you don't ask people.
Yeah.
And whether I was selling a coupon book, or even now with the annual fund, instead of saying, well, you need to buy this book and go on, we're just saying to people, for those stakeholders out there that have students in the school, or that have had students in the school, or that have been students in the school, or that have family that was there, or who just believe that it's important that there be an opportunity for a Christian education that
reach the next generation,
based on the Bible, that we go out and do it. People are committed to that, and if we just ask them, will you support us in doing that? And that's exactly what the annual fund is doing.
One of my recent training things, it was pointed out that givers give, and they're giving because that's who they are. they're just not giving to you if you're not asking. And that was
right.
hard for me because I don't like to ask, and it's never an easy thing. And so I think that's why I was so surprised with the amount that people gave, and it was true that they were looking for an opportunity, and when asked, a number of people stepped up and said, I'm glad you asked, and here's some dollars to use, and God's blessed that.
I don't think any of us like to go out and ask people for money and everything, but one thing I've learned is that what's the worst thing that can happen? They can say no.
Give the same amount they gave yesterday, right? So
so you can move on to the next one.
The annual fund,
you won't get it if you don't ask.
Yeah, the annual fund's the big kind of fund in front right now as far as front facing. But there's two other funds, one that's been around for a little while and one that's a little bit newer. Why don't you tell me a little bit about those? There's the scholarship fund and the endowment fund. Tell me a little bit about how those funds are used and how those are funded and what that looks like.
Okay, well, the scholarship fund is just as it sounds. It's for use to help students who might not be able to attend otherwise to be able to afford what's going on. As you mentioned, we're a private school, so we're operating off tuition, and
Sure.
Across the country there are some states who offer state support to private Christian schools that are going on. Michigan's not one of them.
Yeah.
So all of our funding is coming from tuition and from other fundraising that we might do. And I know you and I have had this conversation a lot about how if we have a family that's committed to Christian education and wants their children to be exposed to Christian education and to be taught from the perspective of a biblical worldview, then we don't want the lack of funds to be the thing that stops that child from getting that that education, because we think it's critical to do that. So the scholarship fund helps us to do that. People can make contributions to the scholarship fund. Money comes in, then we can turn around and pay that money back out to those kids that have a need that wouldn't be able to be here otherwise.
And that fund doesn't carry a huge balance. We keep a moderate balance as we move through the school year because really every dollar that comes in is needed, and it goes back out to help pay school bills and pay tuition for students that otherwise potentially wouldn't be able to.
And we can always use more.
Yeah, and so that's a great way to give. So if you say, well, the annual fund, doesn't do it for me, I'd rather pay directly towards a student being able to attend the school. That's what the scholarship fund does. And, sometimes it's good for me people to hear the numbers. This in a normal school year, it's about $750,000, $750,000 literally, that is discounted to our families for them to attend. When people talk about the cost of coming to Calvary Academy, the tuition costs, we do our best to help families in different ways. That might include a discount for folks that are already members of Calvary Baptist Church, so they give through their tithes and offerings to support the ministry of the school. So there's a small discount for those families. There's a discount for families that have financial need. They can apply for financial assistance, and we offer some of that. There's folks that have a discount because they have multiple children in the school. Yep. There's discount for families that are on our staff at different levels, for those that serve in the school as part of our staff and such. All of that adds up to approximately $750,000 a year in discounted tuition. So we really do try our best to accommodate folks that have financial need to be able to be in the school. But at some point, that has to be made up for, and that's what the scholarship helps fund, in particular those need-based students that have those opportunities for us to be a blessing to those families. And then there's the endowment fund.
And the endowment fund was started a number of years ago. With my understanding, I wasn't directly involved at the time this started, but my understanding is that, like all endowments, the concept is that we raise an amount of money, set that aside, and have it be earning interest or earning income is coming on, and then from that income we can use it to fund different things, whether it be from an operational standpoint or many times on the same kind of things we're doing with the annual fund to try to enhance, if you will, the offering that we have there.
There's about I think $125,000 sitting in that endowment fund currently, so it's not huge.
It's not huge.
But it's a good start.
It's kind of set there and not done a lot here in the last several years. And I know you and I have talked a lot, and the committee is talking about that. We want to do some stuff. We're going to engage perhaps with some professional advisors on what we can do to enhance and maybe raise some more money to get us to the place where we need to, so that can be a real valuable input, if you will, into enhancing what we're able to offer.
That and it creates stability. So we have this opportunity to create a long-term, sustainable income source, as that fund grows. And really, that's what all the fundraising is about. Is really two things. It's one, making, like I said, I like to use that word, accessible. I like to make Christian education as accessible as possible to as many families as possible. And so that takes dollars, because you have to pay for the facilities, you have to pay for the faculty, and so all of that costs money. So we've been blessed over the years, and yet we want to make it more accessible. And then the second thing is sustainable. We want to create something that will last. And so to have those financial resources to work those two together, and that's the burden, and that's the challenge. And yet, I'm not worried about it. I think that we're going to be wise and continue to apply best practices and the principles of accounting and do what we can to do this successfully. But ultimately, God is in control. And when I was a kid, you'd sing the song that He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Yeah. The reality that He's not short on resources. So our trust isn't in the endowment fund or the annual fund or the scholarship fund. However, God has given us the ability to use our resources and to invest into the school this way. And so I know that I, personally invest into those funds.
As do I.
And I'm not saying that pridefully, but rather just to let people know that this isn't something that I just ask others to do, but that, I prayerfully consider and do what I can to help other students be able to attend the school, not just my own, but also to see the product improve. And so that's our goal there. And so we're thankful to all of our families, and we know that the burden of tuition is high. And so we're not asking you to consider going into debt in some way or do some crazy thing to give to those funds. But others, you have maybe some extra resources, and especially as we head towards the end of a year here and you're looking at ways to invest well, that Calvary Baptist Academy is a place that you can give to. And that if you'd like to have any discussions around how those funds particularly might be used, or a place that you think they could be used or should be, we'd love to have those conversations with you. If there's a particular, even sometimes student or family situation you hear of and you'd like to directly be a blessing to that family and to those situations, that's always fun to be able to be a conduit of that and let someone know that your tuition bill's been paid for this month, and through that scholarship fund, through a generous donation. And
one thing I just want to mention too, you mentioned earlier the theme for the year is Stronger Together. And it's not just the theme for our annual fundraising. It's really the theme for the school for the year, and we're really putting a lot of focus on building that relationship, because we view education. We believe the Bible tells us that education is the responsibility of the parents, and we as a Christian school in the church are there to help those parents to raise up their kids and to educate them in the best way that they can. And we really do believe that in that way, we are stronger together. If we can encourage the relationship between the school, Calvary Baptist Academy and HTP, and the family, those parents, grandparents, and others, and the church, which is we're a ministry of the church, and everything we can do to strengthen that team that's working to support these kids, that's exactly what we want to do. And we're doing a lot of stuff to try to increase the communication with those various groups, stakeholder groups, if you will, with our school. And we want to hear from you.
We do. And if you want to know how to get a hold of us, it's pretty easy. You can email us. I'm available anytime, d.warren@cbamidland.org, or just swing by the office anytime and set up an appointment. I'd love to hear from you if you have questions, or we can talk, whether that's about enrolling a student or supporting what's going on at Calvary Baptist Academy, or even just some ideas you have for how we can do some things better. We want to work at that together. And we're thankful at Calvary Baptist Academy for all of our families, both past and present. Mm-hmm. And we are excited for this upcoming annual fund to see what God will do. Like we said, last year, God did above what we expected. And we'll see what he does this year. But we'll be grateful no matter what. Amen. And we're looking forward to seeing what God will do. If you'd like to give, you'll be able to see there on the screen ways that you can contribute to that. It's really simple. Just head to our website. You'll see the giving tab, and it's not a challenge for you to figure that out, of course, and we make it really, really easy. But thanks again for listening, and I want to say thanks to Bill for joining me, and I thank seriously Bill for all of his efforts with the school committee, the hours that he's put in, and looking forward to continuing to work together. We've got to travel together, get to know each other, and he's just been a blessing and encouragement to me as head of school, and I know our teachers and our staff and our families are well supported with Bill and the rest of the school committee and the work that they're doing. And so I'm very thankful for them. So if you get a chance and you see Bill at a soccer game or a volleyball game, I guess soccer's over now, but basketball's around the corner and he'll be there courtside. Amen. And, just thank him for his service. And if you ever have any questions or any thing you want to share, I know he's got open ears as well, and we'd love to hear from you. So thanks again for listening and watching the Lions Roar podcast. We'll see you again soon for the next episode. In the meantime, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, share this so that more people hear what's going on at Calvary Baptist Academy. Have a great day.